NGO kind of project. We look for funding. I said, no, I didn't have an instruction to start an NGO. And I will tell you why. Beyond instruction, it was an integrity matter for me. Here I was, I've burnt the cable. I've cut the bridge from my uncle who was supposed to sort me out. Now I was on my own trying to find my feet. Now I knew if I started an NGO with all my needs, I didn't have a roof over my head. I didn't have a car that I was driving. I didn't have many things. So if I started an NGO, I knew I was going to compromise the funds. There was no way I wasn't going to do that. So on the basis of that, I felt if I'm doing business, it is clear how money comes in and how I use it. I'm not going to be under the kind of scrutiny I'm going to be if I was running an NGO. So I started a business, right? And the truth of the matter is that I began to do on some.
Yes, it's Wednesday, the last episode for the year, Startup and Innovators. Now, today we don't have a startup. This gentleman is not a startup, but he's an innovator. He's an innovator par excellence. In my own words, I wrote 7 words to describe him. I wrote he's a visionary, he's a compassionate person, strategic, he's empowering and innovative, highly purposeful, most importantly, very, very inspirational. Today, our guest is Taiwo Akinlami. Taiwo Akinlami, welcome to Atlanta Discuss.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
We are extremely excited to have you. I'm sure there'll be people that have heard of him. Taiwo, he writes, he's an author. But let me introduce him my own way. Then he's going to tell us his story, in a typical way. Taiwo is a husband, clearly, father, friend, attorney, goodwill investor, and I had value intentionally, and I had value intentionally. So that's the way he wrote it that I wrote there. So I live to build an egalitarian Africa, a world fit for our precious children and empowering them to thrive in it, which yardsticks are strengthened family through engaging in mature and decency advocacy. Secondly, he's writing, securing a friendly and protective environment for children, and so on and so forth. So there's so many of them, but it won't be fair for me to do that for him because he's going to introduce himself. He's going to tell his story himself. So Taiwo Akinlami, welcome once again. Tell us your story. How did you become an attorney? How do you become an advocacy for family and all that? How do you become so relevant that you empower people home and abroad, Africa, Europe, everywhere? You also speak in public. You're a public speaker. You're a motivator. And most of our guests, for Startup and Innovators, need someone like you. But for the younger people, they've tried, they failed, they're nearly giving up. But with someone like you, I'm sure you're going to be a moral booster. So over to you. Tell us your story.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I followed your channel.
Thank you.
You're doing a great work. I followed some of the wonderful interviews you have had.
Thank you.
The personalities that you have interviewed. It's been inspirational. And thank you for all that you do to make a difference in the lives of people. Yes, about me. There's a whole lot about me, but let me see how I can summarize.
We got it in one day, but
yes, let me see how I can summarize my story. So I think what I'm doing today, I was telling somebody, was it last week or so, that what I'm doing today, I think I was having a meeting with our staff. And I said, what I'm doing today called me. I didn't call it. I didn't look for it. It called me. My childhood prepared me for what I'm doing today. I experienced a very tough childhood, an abusive childhood.
Oh, wow.
And please, when I talk about an abusive childhood, it's not an indictment on my parents. I think my father and my mother were good people, wonderful people. I think they could die for us, particularly my mom. She could give her life for us, but unfortunately, she could do what she knew to do. I mean, she came from a polygamous home. I think her father had like 23 wives. The mom was one of the youngest wives. As a matter of fact, my grandmother was the daughter of the man that my grandmother married was a friend to her own father.
Oh, wow.
And so that's how young she was to this man. And so my father also had his own issues. So they made terrible mistakes in raising us. I was physically abused, sexually abused, emotionally abused, and neglected. And so I became an adult at 18, yet I was still a child, because my life was not governed by any meaningful principle. And so I remained in that childhood mode for another 9 years. At 27, I became a person of faith. And becoming a person of faith gave me an opportunity to meet myself in the real sense of how God created me to be. And so I began to understand that the way my parents treated me was not the end of my story. As a matter of fact, was antithetical to what God saw about me. And so I began to understand that God has another plan for me. And so on the basis of that, that was like 2 years before I was called to the Nigerian bar. So when I was called to the Nigerian bar, I made it a point of duty that I was going to use my life, my story, and the help that I've gotten to reach out to others. And that's how I started out. I had the opportunity of working in my uncle's chambers. My uncle was Chiganifayemi, who sent me to school, right? And the expectation was that when I finished school, I was going to work in his law firm. But you see, I turned down the whole idea of working in his law firm and let him understand that I have chosen this path. What is the path? To bring to the very front burner the rights and responsibilities of the African child for due respect in the best interest of the child. Now, I set out to do that, not as an NGO, but running a law firm that focused on women and children. It was crazy. People tell you it wasn't going to work. How are you going to do it? People do your kind of project. We look for funding. I said, no, I didn't have an instruction to start an NGO. And I will tell you why. Beyond instruction, it was an integrity matter for me. Here I was, I've burnt the cable. I've cut the bridge from my uncle who was supposed to sort me out. Now I was on my own trying to find my feet. Now I knew if I started an NGO with all my needs, I didn't have a roof over my head. I didn't have a car that I was driving. I didn't have many things. So if I started an NGO, I knew I was going to compromise the funds. There was no way I wasn't going to do that. So on the basis of that, I felt if I'm doing business, it is clear how money comes in and how I use it. I'm not going to be under the kind of scrutiny I'm going to be if I was running an NGO. So I started a business, right? And the truth of the matter is that I began to do on sound commercial principles what people were doing as NGOs, right? And that was the beginning of a new thing in Nigeria, because I pioneered the whole idea of child's right, child protection, childhood preservation, running it as on sound commercial principle. And I began to get noticed by different organizations like UNICEF, the British Council, and a whole lot of others. But the truth of the matter is that I started out in 1997. I did not get noticed by UNICEF until 2005.
Wow, almost 7 years.
Yes, I didn't. I mean, it was tough, but because I was persuaded that was what I was supposed to do, I just kept on.
Wow, interesting. Fantastic. The part of it I like was that you studied law with Garifa based sponsoring you finished law and you decided not to work in this chamber. I'm sure in his heart of hearts, even though we won't be happy with that decision, but we see the radicalism that in you know, that you just made up, you have a mind of your own. So my first question to you is this, really. What's the most rewarding part of being a goodwill investor? And how do you measure the impact of your investment on African communities?
Okay, I think the most important thing for me is that I'm fulfilled. What I'm doing. That fulfillment. I normally tell people, if you hear that I stopped doing what I'm doing, just know that I signed up for suicide. Wow. It will mean that I'm not grateful. It will mean that I'm not faithful. It will mean that I'm disobedient to what I am persuaded God wants me to do. So for me, you see, when I was in the university, we were running a campaign for a friend. Then I came across this phrase that we're using for him. The world is a marketplace. Sacrifices are its reward. So, and that stuck with me. And when I saw that, I think I was 200 level, 300 level, I adopted that phrase, that truism as my life, ideology, as how I want my life to be defined, as how I want my epitaph to be written. Here is a man who lived understanding that the world is a marketplace, sacrifices are its reward. Wow. Now, Paul was saying, I'm a person of faith. Paul was saying that.
I know, I was going to say that to the viewers, that you're also a man of faith, but God.
Yes. He said, necessity is laid upon me. He said, yea, woe unto me if I do not preach the gospel. In this instance, for me, the most rewarding thing for me is that I'm waking up every day doing what I believe God wants me to do. I am fulfilled doing it. I derive a lot of pleasure doing it. For me, I'm never tired doing it. So for me, that's the most rewarding thing. Now, when you talk about impact, the impact is measurable for me. Two ways I measure impact. Number one, people reach out to say, this is who I was when we met. This is who I've become. Now, there's a gentleman who lives in the UK. He came in contact with our work like maybe 2010 or thereabouts. There's hardly any week that he does not send me messages to say, you know what, there's no way I can be teaching in the United Kingdom today if not that I was exposed to your teaching. Other teachers have issues. They are not able to cope. But thank God that I met you. Thank God for the day I met you, and thank God that I submitted myself to your tutelage. Today, I'm doing great. And there are testimonies, legions of testimonies like that we have received, almost on a daily basis. People talking about how our work have impacted them. That's number one. Number two is that we have also influenced policy. For example, in Lagos State, I was advocating for there to be a statewide policy, for the protection of children. And in 2016, early 2016, I got a call from the Lagos State government to say that this thing you have been campaigning about, we want to do it. Can you come on board and serve as a technical advisor? And I said, yes, I'm going to serve as a technical advisor under one condition, pro bono. I don't want to be paid. I don't want to charge a dime. And so I joined that team. We worked on the first of its kind in Nigeria. That is a statewide child protection policy for the entire Lagos State. And on December 16, 2016, that policy that we worked on was signed into law as an executive order, which is in existence in Lagos State today, was signed into law by the then governor of Lagos State, Mr. Akinlami, right? I've been before the National Assembly, invited, because the National Assembly wrote me a letter in 2006, acknowledging my role in seeing to the promulgation of the Child Rights Act, because I was one of the people who campaigned for the promulgation of the Child Rights Act. Because Nigeria has ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Now, by virtue of our constitution, when you ratify a treaty, it might not be enforceable in Nigeria except it is promulgated into law in Nigeria as if it's a law of Nigeria. And so we began to advocate, we began to canvass. And so that law was passed in 2003. And no sooner than it was passed, I started a column in Daily Independent newspaper, and I started, serializing the law and started the first column in Nigeria that tried to educate the Nigerian populace and even lawyers, because that my column was in the law journal of Daily Independent. It was the first attempt by anyone, to try to inform the members of the public as to the context of that law, and so I got a letter from the National Assembly, to say that we want to thank you for being part of the advocates who advocated for the promulgation of the Child Rights Act. Can you come and address us? And so in 2006, I was before the National Assembly when Masari was the speaker, and to address, the media, House of National Assembly Committee I've forgotten the committee now, but the speaker presided, and I was there to address them. So I've seen different, there are different things I can begin to talk about. In 2017, I was invited to Dublin. That's by Google and Facebook. And they wanted me to talk about, we have a project which we call Securing a Friendly and Protective Environment for Children. They wanted me to talk to practitioners from the Middle East, from Europe, from Africa, about, they call it showcase. Our project was being showcased. I was in Google office making a presentation, showing other practitioners how they could replicate what we have done effectively in Nigeria. So that's a whole lot I can begin to talk about, but if I'm going to measure impact, I'm going to measure it from my own personal fulfillment. This is the truth, my brother. Even if nobody subscribes to what we are doing today, even if nobody says it is okay, that fulfillment that I derive from the fact that I love what I'm doing, I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're passionate about it.
I'm passionate about what I'm doing. I can discuss this thing from night to tomorrow night, and I'll quickly tell you a story. In the year 2000, I was canvassing for the rights of children who were in brothels in Lagos State.
Oh, wow.
I've caused a letter to be written. There's a lot of people here. I've caused a letter to be written to different organizations, including NTA. So I was invited by NTA, right, to appear on one-on-one. One-on-one were the kinds of program, one-on-one was the kind of program that interviewed people like Chief Ganifayemi, the people that are really making a difference in the society. So I appeared on one-on-one, and I was interviewed by the veteran journalist Adeso Onyenokwe. And she told me that apart from the beauty queens that they have brought to that program, I was the youngest, I was 30 years old. Oh. And she told me that, look, that this conversation we want to have, we are going live. When we got to the studio, they prepped me, had some, said some things to me, and told me that, we are going live. This is going to be live. 30 million Nigerians are going to be watching you, because it was 98 network. 30 million Nigerians are going to be watching you. Are you sure you're able to have this conversation? It's going to last off an hour. I remember vividly what my response was. I said, just for an hour, I can discuss this for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, for the whole day, and the whole week, for the whole month.
Oh, God.
She was, when she heard that, she was energized, said, let's go to the studio. And that's how, with that enthusiasm, that's how we got into the studio. Oh. And so for me, that is it for me.
Fantastic. Before I go to my next question, do you still practice law?
Yes, I practice law in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, okay, all right. So my second question to you is, as a strong advocate for child-centered parenting, what advice will you give to parents struggling to balance discipline and nurturing in today's world? This goes especially to people that are living in the first world, Canada, America, UK, yeah. So I'll say it again. As a strong advocate for child-centered, you get it, okay.
I get it. So this is the point for me. One of the things we are doing in North America is we are running a company known as the Power Parenting Company.
Okay.
And the focus of this company is to help parents to understand that they are raising children in a different world, particularly if you are raising children in North America, in Europe, and the rest of it. Now, people talk about culture a lot, but what I've come to know in the environment in which we are is that ideology is superior to culture. Everybody who is not aware that there's an agenda out there, there's an agenda. Now, this agenda is funded. This agenda has pecuniary interest. This agenda has pecuniary reward. This agenda is the way people dominate. And these agendas, not even one agenda, is informed by people's ideology. So you take, for example, the noise about social media, the ban of social media for people below 16 in Australia and the rest of it. I ask the question, how do you start the conversation on social media from the negative point of view? Right? Now, the social media is a neutral entity. It follows the character and the value of those who engage it, right? You don't begin to talk about a car to your child and say a car kills, a car can lose its brakes, a car can cause trouble. You start talking about the beauty of a car. So you have conversations about a knife. You don't call your son and say, I want to discuss knife with you today. This knife you can use to kill somebody. This knife is dangerous. No, that's not what you do. Now, because these things are machines, these things are things that the impact they have on society is the values of the person using it. The impact of a car on society is the value of the person using it. The same car that we drive to church, we drive to go and be a blessing. People drive it to go and kidnap. People drive it to go and rob.
The function of application.
Yes, God bless you. It's a function of application. So the challenge is, if as people raising children here do not understand that there's an ideology out there, and the ideology is fighting for the souls of our children, or ideologies, because it's not one ideology. You have the liberal ideology, you have the conservative ideology, you have ultra left, ultra conservative, you have all kinds of things out there. So for me, except we are able to prepare the ground, except we are able to prepare ourselves and prepare our children and let them understand the way the world works. There's a way the world works. When I talk to parents, I talk about the principle of values and numbers. A lot of parents are interested in values. They want to raise well-behaved children. But I say, well, there are well-behaved people who are very poor, well-behaved people who are powerless, well-behaved people who don't have a say in the society.
They're irrelevant.
I don't want to raise a well-behaved child alone. Yes, a well-behaved child, value is the foundation, but there must be a commitment to number. Are you getting it? Because number is ability to make a difference, ability to make money, ability to monetize your value, not commercialize it, not merchandise it, but to be able to earn from what you do, right? So for me, when we talk about discipline, I have a different concept. I don't believe in child discipline, right? I believe in the culture of discipline. Because as far as I'm concerned, discipline does not begin with the child. Discipline begins with the parent. It is the example that parents show that children will follow. And that's why I normally say that, look, our children are either beneficiaries or casualties of our examples. Whatever we don't like in our children, we're the one who put it there. So I wrote a book which I titled Moving from Child Discipline to the Culture of Discipline, right? Because, it is the culture of the family that the child will follow, right? So for me, when I discuss discipline, I discuss it from the perspective of, what kind of values are you showing to your children? What kind of character are you demonstrating to your children? I came from a background where my father died at the age of 82. In 2009, I was 39. We never had a conversation. He never instructed me on anything. But I saw his life. I saw his unfaithfulness to my mom. I saw that though he swore to my mom to be a husband of one wife, he was never a husband of one wife. I saw his inability to control his appetite. Many days will be drunk. He won't be able to find his way home. They'll come and call us to bring him home. I saw all of those things. As a teenager, I had to stand by the door to say, you are not going out today, because my father had gone out to drink and he has finished the money he went with, and he had come back home to come and take more money so that he could go and drink more. And I will stand by the door and say, you are not going. And so what happened to me was that, apart from the fact that I was sexually molested as a child, when I attained adulthood, I followed my father's path. Anything under skirt, right? And my father drank. I also drank to stupor. Many days I'll be drunk. I won't be able to find my way home. Many days I'll be drunk in university. I will vomit and I will sleep inside my vomit. Oh, wow. Until I became a person of faith. And that transition began when I became a person of faith. And I began to understand that I don't have to follow my father's example. I can follow another example, which is under God. Now, but the truth of the matter is that if I had not been fortunate to become a person of faith and have a reprogramming, my life will have followed the path of my father, right? And so for me,
or even worse.
I even worse.
Yeah.
Right? And what I know today is that I followed my father's footsteps fully until the age of 27, when God rescued me and I began to make it, and I began to chart a new course for my life. And you see, my life and the example of my father is the greatest motivation for me today to be a responsible father. It's the greatest motivation for me today to talk to other fathers and other mothers and parents generally about their children. Your children are going to follow your path. There's nothing we can do about that. So if whatever we don't want our children to become, we must become the model. We must model those things to our children. My son, is 4 years old. We had my child 15 years after we got married. I was 51 when we had that boy. Oh. And today, I never sat him down to say that I'm a pastor. I'm not a pastor. But you see, he went to church. He saw that the guy in church speaks. Then he comes home. He sees that his father is always on Zoom, having one meeting or the other. Then he concluded and started calling me Pastor Taiwo. Pastor Taiwo, because I wear a lot of this hat. I have a lot of them. Each will wear it. He will put his glasses. Then this my chain. I have a couple of them. He will put on his own. You say, take my photograph. Take my photograph. I'm Pastor Taiwo. I'm Pastor Taiwo. There was no time I ever told him that I'm Pastor Taiwo. The other day, I was trying to post something. I said, let me post this. He said, post it on LinkedIn. I said, how did you know LinkedIn? I mean, because those are the things he hears when he's around me. So example is the foundation of child discipline.
Wow. Jaw dropping. I have something similar, maybe not in the way you put it, but but I think everybody goes through midlife crisis actually. And a lot of people don't recover from it. You understand? A lot of people, that's why I don't fault people that are not doing well in life. You understand? I don't fault them. But it's I was born a Muslim. Today I'm a Christian. You understand that kind of thing? I used to drink a lot too. You understand? But it's tough. You can't just, it takes a man to come out of that, and a lot of people don't survive it, and especially if you live in some part of Africa, you understand, where there's shortage of role model, discipline is not the order of the day, or immense lawlessness. You probably
immense lawlessness.
It's immense lawlessness, I'll tell you. So let me ask you this. It's similar to what you've been answering, but I'm compelled to still ask you. How do you think African cultures can adapt to prioritizing child security and protection without losing their unique tradition and values? I mean, you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I get. You see, Africa is a unique. Africa is a unique. Africa has a unique culture. But you see, there's this saying that what you don't use, you lose. How do you pass across culture? By codification, right? Yeah. By a father telling his son that this is how this is what we do in our society. This is what we do in our homes. Then it comes to a point where that is documented, so that documentation leads to a level of standardization, so that there can be corroboration. Because what my father tells me might be different from what your father tells you, and we don't now know who is true, who is true to our culture. I think the challenge we have faced is the fact that we have not been able to follow a track of development that is consistent in terms of being proud about our own culture. Let me give you an example of language. Okay. When we give birth to my son, I vowed he was going to speak Yoruba. I vowed he's going to speak Yoruba. There's nothing that is going to happen. But what I did not take into cognizance was how far I've been colonized. You know, there's a guy who wrote a book titled Decolonizing the Mind. Ngugi wa Thiong. Decolonizing the Mind. I've read that book, but you see, reading that book did not reveal to me how colonized that I was. Now, so this is what happened. My wife and I were married for 15 years before we had a child. In those 15 years, the lingua franca in our home was English. We had the best of our conversations in English. All of us, my wife is from Kogi. She speaks Yoruba fluently. I speak Yoruba very well. But somehow, by the conditioning of neocolonialism, right, the Englishman foisted a language on us. And so I embraced that language. And so when I got married, my wife and I spoke English to ourselves. We never wrote any letter to ourselves in Yoruba. We never sent any text in Yoruba. We never sent any WhatsApp message in Yoruba. Everything was English. The best of discussions, even prayers, was English. Bible study was in English. So when we gave birth to a son now, we wanted the son to speak Yoruba, but it became tough, which meant that if the boy was going to speak Yoruba, we also needed to change the dominant language in the home.
Which was English.
Which was English. You know, because the best way to teach a child a language is for you to speak it, not to say, aja, be better, not all of those things. It's by speaking the language also. How does my son understand, speak the way he speaks? It's because of the dominant environment, the dominant language in the environment. And so for me, take language, for example. If we are not careful, the Yoruba dialect or the Yoruba language is going to go into extinct. And the same way for Igbo, even for other African countries. So now when a man loses his language, right, he has lost almost 80% of his identity. So when we're talking about culture, culture is communicated through language. Language is the vehicle of culture. So when we have a crop of parents who do not even know where they are from, you know, I say our Oriki, my father's house Oriki to my son, you know, and it gives me an insight to the kind of people we used to be. Now, we were so prosperous that our compound did not have doors, right? We guarded it with slaves, right? They were the ones who, that's how prosperous we were. Though I never met that wealth, you know, because by the time I was born, you know, my grandfather was living in one room apartment, you know, inherited from his mother, right? So, but you see, I'm able to understand where my people came from, right? There's Oriki, you know, for a family. There's Oriki for a people, you know, people from a particular town. You know, all of these things are lost today. So for me, I think we need to embark on the crusade or revolution of cultural awakening. And I think the first thing we need to revive is our language. And that's why there's a lot of attention today to those who are doing stuff in local language. You know, I don't know, there's this guy who is doing Maso Imbo.
I know him.
You know, a lot of people are following. And you know, the people who watch those things more are people in the diaspora.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because they want to connect. You see, there's something that is telling them that there's need to connect. Look, I don't eat anything in the US. All our food, we're always in the African store. You know, the food that my son grew up with was ewedu and amala. You know, we used to prepare it for him as a pudding. You know, and so for me, I'm somebody who's interested in my culture, but you see, the problem is that I underrated how much I have been damaged. You know, I can't have this interview in Yoruba, it's going to be tough. Yes, Yoruba is my mother tongue.
Absolutely.
Yoruba is supposed to be my first language.
See the way because I'm laughing because I'm as guilty as you are.
It's been replaced with English language.
Yeah.
If we turn this to Yoruba now, you say, oh, I'm going to be stammering.
Yeah.
How do I describe child protection in Yoruba?
Can you
How
imagine?
do I discuss egalitarian? How do I discuss all of these things? I mean, it's tough.
I call it cultural imperialism,
Correct.
That's what I call it, cultural imperialism. So in your experience, right, what's the biggest misconception about social protection, and how can we work to change that narrative? You were saying part of it, but how can we consciously, especially when you talk about, I'm talking about misconception now on social protection. How can we actually work to change it? Is it by home or community or collectively? That kind of thing.
Okay, I think the greatest misconception I've come across when it comes to social protection or child protection is this idea that it takes only parents to take responsibility for their children. I will tell you what I mean.
Okay.
In Nigeria, for example, there's nothing tangible that the Nigerian government is doing for the Nigerian child. Nothing tangible.
Not that you can lay your hands on. Yeah.
No, nothing tangible. You see, there are two categories of children in Nigeria, I must say. The first one are the people whose parents have taken over the responsibility that the state is supposed to carry out. Education,
health,
nutrition, shelter, security, right? Parents who knew that children were not going to, parents who knew that government was not going to provide those services, decided to provide it for their children. Which means that those children are not citizens of Nigeria. Because if they are citizens, there should be something that accrues to them from their nation.
Absolutely.
Right? So those children are not citizens of Nigeria. They are citizens of their parents. Then you now have another set of children who do not have access to all of these things, and their parents cannot improvise. Their parents cannot provide education. Their parents cannot provide health. Those are the children that are out of school. 20 million Nigerian children are out of school. Those are the children that are suffering from stunted growth. Those are children that are still practicing open defecation. Those are children that are not able to, have access to immunization or good nutrition and the rest of it. Those children, as far as I'm concerned, they are stateless. They don't have a nation. They are stateless because how does the nation come to their rescue? And so for me, in Nigeria, we don't have, if we're talking about Nigeria and Africa, in most places we don't have underprivileged children. Because you see, when you say somebody is underprivileged, what you are saying is that all of the rights of the person has been met. What the person does not have is privilege. In America, you can go to a school. Now, that school is a right. From kindergarten to high school is a right.
The right, yeah.
Now, you can now say that, well, I don't want to go to a public school, I want to go to a private school, which means that going to a private school is now a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you are owed is a right they've given you. You cannot say, well, I want to be only 17 in a class. I want to be only 10 in a class. I want to be only 20 in a class. So your parents will go and pay more to take you to a private school. Not because public schools are not existing. But that's not the story in Nigeria. What the children are denied of are not privileges. They are rights. They are denied of education, a right.
Wow.
They are denied of security, a right. They are denied of health, a right. They are denied of nutrition, a right. So the children in Nigeria are not underprivileged. They are the denied, the abandoned.
Stateless.
The stateless children. That's what we are dealing with right there. So for me, the misconception is that somebody will now tell me that the greatest prayer point of a Nigerian parent should pray to be able to pay school fees. I say, you see, that is not a universal prayer point. It's not in every nation that parents are waking up every day to look for how to pay school fees. Even in Rwanda, that has been sorted. People are removing their children from private school to public school because Kagame rebuilt the public school sector and made it appealing. And people now found out that they had nothing to lose
by going to the government school.
By going to government school. And so for me, the misconception is that to think that it's only parents, biological parents, that are meant to raise children. There's no. So this is my conclusion. What God has deposited in a child, there's no one entity, family that can bring all of that out. There are four institutions that must be raising a child. When any of them is not alive to their responsibility, there's going to be a major problem. Now, the first institution is the family, right? The family, what is the role of the family? The role of the family is to inculcate positive value system in their children. The second one is the community. In the community, you have neighbors, you have schools, you have the media, right? You have non-governmental organization, not-for-profit organization. Those ones are the ones who support the family to reinforce values, right? Then you have, then the third one is the government. What is the purpose of the government? The government is supposed to make policies to institutionalize social protection. Do you know that International Labour Organization said many years ago that the solution to poverty, the solution to child labor is social protection, providing social amenities, providing social safety nets, welfare for parents is one of the ways by which you can combat child labor. Because who are the children who are engaged in child labor? They are the children of wives of wood and drawers of water, the children of the poor, the children of the rejected, the denied, the people that France are now called the wretched of the earth. Those are the children of people that are denied. So for us, for me, at the end of the day, we must understand that there are four institutions. The family. The family is first, for the family is not all. The family cannot do it alone. There's no society where only family raises children. Any meaningful society. Then the second one is the community. The third one is the government. The fourth one is the international community that ensures that there is a global standard, for when it comes to laws, for the purpose of raising children. You know that the most ratified convention, human rights convention in the world today, is the Convention on the Rights of the Child. That's the most ratified convention. Every country in the world, I think except the United States, have ratified that convention. It's called the most ratified human rights convention. That is the role that the international community plays to ensure that there is a uniformity and there's conformity to that uniformity when it comes to respecting the rights of our children. But we must also keep in mind that a lot of times also the international community moves by reason of interest. If they have an interest that is predominant, in some instances, they may not live according to the tenets of the convention. But the most important thing is that is one of the biggest one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen, that people believe that for a child to become all that God has deposited into him, it takes only the parent, the biological parent. And so we focus on only the biological parents without discussing the environment in which children are being raised.
Fantastic. So I have one more question for you because we're really pressed for time. Yeah. But something else came to my head, and I think I'll just lump the two together so that you can round up in about 3 minutes. So the one that came to my head is, what role does religion play in all this for Africans? You understand? What role does religion play, whether Muslim, Christian, or ancestral worship? What role, what misconception, what misapplication is that? Do we practice the religion the way it should be? And you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
And the last question is, what's your vision for the future of family strengthening initiatives in Africa? And how can individuals get involved in creating positive change?
Okay, so religion is the opium of the people, of the masses.
Masses, yeah.
Yes. That's what someone said.
Yes, I've read it too.
Is the opium. I don't believe in religion. You know what happened in Ghana recently? One clown came out to say that God asked him to build an ark, that the world was going to end during Christmas. Do you know he built this ark?
Wow.
Do you know that on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, see millions, thousands of Ghanaians queuing to enter the ark? Now, now the world was going to end. It was only going to end in Ghana. It was only those who entered the ark in Ghana that were going to be saved, right? This is a society where we don't scrutinize anything. Somebody comes out, makes allegation, we don't scrutinize it. Now, nobody calls anybody to order. Nobody is in charge of anybody. People just do stuff. So I think that for me, when I became a person of faith, I did not suspend my thinking. Because this book that I read did not ask me to suspend my thinking. The book that I read says there is a renewal of my mind, right? So I'm not supposed to suspend my thinking. There is a reason. The book that I read says those who have their senses trained to know the difference between good and evil. So I think that in Africa, we are sheepishly following religious tenets without asking critical questions. And so, for example, there's a recent a movie that was released in Nigeria called Dirty Christmas. And people were calling for the heads of the producers of the movie. I wrote an article on Christmas Day to say, look, and people will say, well, if you say it of the people of that religion, they will protest. They will protest. I say, are you of other religion? What is your own with what somebody has decided to call a movie? How does that change, your faith or stop people from becoming part of your faith? So for me, something we need to do, we need to reprogram our mind. That's why I write an article. I write a column, on my blog every Sunday, which I titled Ministry of Clarity. And I call it Homily from the Pew. I discuss issues like these people that call themselves deliverance ministers. I discuss issues like people who say that somebody can be responsible for another person's destiny. I try to discuss a whole lot of that, right? And as for my plan for the future, in this new year, we are launching 2 programs. We are launching Power Parenting Academy, which is something that is a subscription-based, platform where we intend to talk to children. Where we intend to talk to parents about the whole conversation around parenting. And there are 4 things we have come to recognize. The fact that if you are a parent, you are a role model. If you are a parent, you have to understand the personhood of children. If you are a parent, you have to understand that the parenting world today has changed, and everyone who has influence on our children is a parent. So we have to be able to collaborate with other parents to be able to make a difference. Then we are launching online courses under our Safe for Children School projects. What we are doing under Safe for Children School project is to migrate some of the training that we have been running offline in person. We are migrating them online so that there can be wider spread and wider, subscription of all of those things. For me, the commitment is about the fact that things are not as they used to be as a result of the level of advocacy and the attention that we have called to stuff. But I tell you, there's a whole lot of room for improvement, right? And so we continue to do the work that we are doing, hoping that at the end of the day, we're able to raise a generation where they live in a world where they can grow, where they can thrive, where they can make a difference, right? And that is it for me.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time, Taiwo Akinlami. I follow your column. We also publish it on Atlantic Digest, and you have a very big fan. People call me, who is that guy? Who is that guy? So you can easily go to his blog spot too. If you just Google his name, everything comes out. Taiwo is really on the map. He's on the map of family values. He's on the map of law. He's on the map of everything. That's why I use 7 words to qualify him. I say he's a visionary, he's compassionate, he's strategic, he's empowering, innovative, purposeful, and highly inspirational. So it's a wrap there. So we'll see you next week, Wednesday. Bye.